This morning, I was super excited to congratulate the Honorable Mr. Eliud Kipchoge for breaking his own record in the Berlin Marathon by a whopping 30 seconds to complete the race in 2 hours, 1 minute and 9 seconds. Ha! Say that right the first time. Even though it's a remarkable achievement, we have some pressing issues to talk about. Now, as you know, our President, the Honorable Dr. William Ruto, has just arrived back in Kenya from his overseas trips to the Queen's funeral and his address at the United Nations General Assembly. And during his Thanksgiving speech, he put an emphasis on two very, very important issues that are eating up our economy. To start off with is the issue of drought. Now, Kenya has had poor rainfall over the last decade with an emphasis in the last 5 years. To the point, members of our community have been rendered into eating camel carcasses just to fill their bellies. In his speech, he addressed that 3.1 million Kenyans are starving. That breaks my heart severely, as that's over 6.2% of our entire population going without food. So let's leave the talks of technology and all these big issues when literally people in our country are starving. Now, what did Ruto have to say for this? 13 years ago, when Ruto started his main political career, $100 billion was pledged by the developing nations to African nations every single year in order to help us fight climate change. With such resources, we're able to put better irrigation systems so we're not directly reliant on rainfall, and we can further subsidize other sectors such as grain and fertilizers. This money was not received by us, which is freaking insane, given that these developing industrial countries such as USA, India and China produce 85% and greater of the total global carbon emissions, which is what us as Africans have to face. Let me tell you a sad story. Margaret Nakata and her 3 children hadn't eaten for 2 days after she found out that people in her community in Meru were serving camel carcasses due to the lack of food. Now, we've just come through COVID. Should we really not see eating carcasses of another animal as a serious issue, as Ebola's on the border, COVID has just ended, and we need to learn from these lessons, and I'm glad President Ruto has addressed these issues. Furthermore, he addressed the issue of heavy debt. Now, when I tell you our debt sits at a whopping 8.2 trillion shillings, not million, not billion, trillion with a T. That makes up above 68% of our entire GDP, which means every single transaction, from selling shoes to my videos, every single dollar that's transacted in our country, 68% of that is our debt, which is astonishing, as the global recommended amount is 55%. This is like a serious issue of concern. From that debt, 96.5 billion shillings of that debt is to China alone. And I'm happy to say in his speech, William Ruto addressed that we want to rely more on domestic loans as the government borrowing from us through bonds, such that we're able to generate further income through interest repayment systems, enabling people to save. Watch this clip.
We are chained to many debts. 65% of all the taxes we collect, we use to pay debt. Let us borrow from our own savings so that we can pay interest to our own savers, and we can build our country using our own savings.
Now, if we're able to tackle this debt crisis and famine issues, I believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel, as Dr. William Ruto said, for our economy.
We have laid out good plans, and I can see there is light at the end of the tunnel.
And already by stepping into the State House, he has made some massive reforms. I've made the list here for you guys. First of all, he shows up earlier than every single person to every government meeting, which is in contrast to previous regimes of Uhuru Kenyatta, where State House officials would show up 1 to 2 hours later. This showmanship of discipline and showing that he's willing to come and grind. And at one meeting, I forgot the exact name, but he showed up at 7 a.m. even though the meeting was scheduled at 9 a.m. That shows his commitment to work hard and hustle in Hustler's Nation for our country. Furthermore, he shows a keen interest to listen to each of his state members and senior advisories instead of showing his own opinion, showing he's willing to delegate, but he's not like Uhuru Kenyatta where he's delegating all his duties and retaining the power at the top, which shows true leadership skills. Furthermore, you saw the clip in my previous video. If you haven't seen it already, go check it out. But Uhuru Kenyatta used to drink at the State House like crazy. On contrast, William Ruto is banning all alcohol at State House, which I don't know why isn't making bigger news on the papers, and has told senior officials to either quit drinking or reduce the alcohol consumption. Furthermore, as I mentioned in my previous video on why I feel he's going to win due to religion and his ability to believe in himself, he's bringing pastors into the State House to start praying for our nation, and through forgiveness, like, you know, Uhuru Kenyatta really bullied Ruto. He took away his security, banned his senior members from the parliament. But Ruto is saying it's time to forgive, we have to wash our hands clean, that's the part of democracy, and we need to move on. Coming back to my earlier statement on Eliud Kipchoge, this is why discipline is so important. Please watch these 3 seconds.
Self-discipline starts with you. It's not the other person. It starts with you. Start to examine yourself.
So, long story short, our economy is in problems. Severe drought is keeping hundreds of starving, and a crippling debt crisis where over 19.5% of every 100 shillings you earn is going just to be paying debts. That means if you earn 100 shillings, 19 shillings is just going to be used to pay back international debt. But with President Ruto's hustling mentality and discipline that he's introducing into the State House and faith in God, will we be able to revive this economy and get food back on the tables of hundreds of starving kids, reviving the health sector, education sector, and all that good stuff. Now, if you want to find out, hit that subscribe button, hit that push bell notification button, as I'll be doing analysis like this every single weekday. For now, that's the breakthrough as what has happened on the weekend. I'm glad our president is back home and safe, and for now, peace.